Praise be, bitches, I am Insane Lane, and today we take a look at The Handmaid's Tale by Hulu, Episode 3, Late.
Glenn is gone.
We get a brief glimpse of what happened to Glenn, but that's a mystery that will wind its way throughout the episode, very effectively.
Now I'm awake to the world. I was asleep before. That's how we let it happen.
We get a now woke Offred giving us some much-needed history of Gilead and how they came to power. We learn that in their rise, they slaughtered Congress and tore up the Constitution. Great first steps for dictatorship. And then we get to see some of how it was done and what did it look like. It was a day like any other, morning run with a friend, judgmental disapproving look from another woman, just like any other day.
Just call from work.
What's your problem?
What?
Fucking sluts, get the fuck out of here.
What did you just say? Excuse me? You just call us fucking slut? Are you serious?
Yeah, still normal. Now that would get my attention. Actually, that would make me hide under my desk and call the police, because these guys ain't the police.
Why'd they send the army?
I don't think that's the army.
I think it's another kind of army.
We learn what's happening, why her card wouldn't work, the dirty looks, and she's right, this is a different kind of army. This is the day the new regime takes to the streets and starts with the fundamentalist changes. Yay. We'll get more information on exactly what and how and why, sort of, later on. The show lacks a bit of why, you know I think this. I try not to harp, but sometimes it just gets a little much. And then we have Rita being weird.
I have stewed apples for dessert. Oh, I don't want to forget this.
Like Offred, it's very confused. Rita is usually so cold and like borderline rude to her, and we know Mrs. Waterford downright hates her and resents her presence in the house. So why is everyone being so nice? Well, the clue is in the title. She's late. Meaning there's a baby, maybe. And everyone is so happy. Fred even gets her chair pulled out for her. She gets special food for lunch, even a pretty flower to look at. And if she's a really good girl...
Finish your lunch every bite now. You need to be in the Clean Plate Club.
she can go see baby Angela and Janine. I'm sure Serena Joy intends this as motivation somehow, and it is nice to see proof that she can actually smile, also that she's not the only wife who's a bitch.
Ungrateful girl. She snapped at me.
She bit you?
Mm-hmm. You know how they get. I'm just counting the days until Angela's weaned, and that girl is out of my house.
But this does give Offred a chance to visit with poor, crazy Janine. And she has gone crazier than ever.
I had a baby. A good one. I had a good one. And so they don't care. I can do anything I want. I can have ice.
This in particular is not the crazy talking. This is the core thinking of Gilead. That having a baby is everything, and if a woman can do that, she's nearly a saint. So of course Janine is being praised and indulged and given little extras. For now. As long as the baby still needs her breast milk.
He loves me. He loves me so much. My commander. And he loves Charlotte. And we are going to run away together.
Now, at first, I wasn't sure if this was delusional thinking on Janine's part. I mean, it seems only natural Janine would make herself think this, and I doubt she'd be the only one. If you're being repeatedly raped by the same man, and you're not that stable to begin with, it's a pretty easy trap to mix it all up in your head and be like, oh, he must secretly love me, he must secretly like me even, that somehow this is not the horrible situation that it is, and that there can be love in Gilead. And hers goes so far as, of course he's going to leave his wife and run away with her and the baby, and they'll live happily ever after. She's forgotten there are no fairy tales in Gilead. They burn them all. We get some real insight into the twisted mind of Serena Joy.
You know, what you do and what we do together is so terrible. It's terribly hard, and we must remain strong. Which is why I feel so blessed to have you.
And that some still small piece of her knows the evil that they do. But then she defaults back to Gilead programming of we're in this together and I'm so grateful for you. Then after seeming to be nice and almost friendly, we get a weird sudden reversal where she decides to stay and send off Red home alone. After trying to talk to Nick about how cute the baby is and general small talk, Nick is weirdly not answering, and when he finally does speak, he says this.
Everybody breaks. Everybody.
More mystery. What is he talking about? What is he trying to warn her of? And then we see it. There's a black van. An eyes van. There for her. But that will wait a minute as we go back to a different mystery. How did they trap the women and take all their rights away so quickly and so completely? Well, part of the answer is that they did it very quickly. When you do a lot of things very quickly, there's less time for people to react, less time for dissension or rebellion, and when you have guys with guns lining the streets ready to shoot people to make sure your new laws are enforced, yeah, you kind of get things done in a hurry. Moira says it best.
You know, they needed to do it this way. All the bank accounts and the jobs all at the same time. You imagine the airports otherwise? They don't want us leaving, you can bet on that.
She's exactly right. And we know from Ovglen, the first one, the one we're following, wondering what's going to happen to her, that she herself did try to leave by plane with her family, and that they had Canadian passports and she didn't, so she was caught. But it does sound like they were maybe let go, her wife, and I believe she said she had a son. So this may also answer what's been a big question for me, because in the book it's addressed, and this would have to be addressed in the real world. When regime change happens and you're now taking people, your own citizens, captive, what do you do with people who are not your citizens? What do you do with illegal immigrants or visiting students, visiting people who are working, people who are just there for vacation, people who are not American citizens and have citizenship rights in other countries? It may just be speculation, but it sounds like they were letting non-Americans leave, which makes perfect sense. If they didn't, it would be kidnapping, which Gilead has no problem with, obviously, but they would be kidnapping foreign nationals. That would get the rest of the world's attention and be grounds for war, which they don't need. They've got a civil war. They don't need to be fighting the rest of the world at the same time. Fighting a war on two fronts, history's proven. Napoleon, Hitler, not a good idea. It doesn't work out well. So they let the foreign nationals go to keep things internal, because most other countries will not intervene in an internal civil war. It's kind of the rule of the planet, that as long as it's not affecting other countries and they're not shooting at you, you're not allowed to intervene in their internal struggle or civil wars. It's just like polite that way. So Gilead gets to keep things private, keep all the dirty secrets in-house. First they take the money and the jobs, leaving women trapped and penniless and relying on men, husbands or close male relative. This is not unheard of today. In fact, it's quite the norm in some places, but America is usually against those places, not copying them. This is the beginning of the end of life as they've known it, and nothing will ever be the same.
Bring it on. I want to hear why I shouldn't take care of my wife.
My wife?
Yeah.
She doesn't belong to you.
That's right.
No. She isn't your property, and she doesn't need you to take care of her. See, that's where all of this comes from. You want to take care of us because we're weak, right? Because we're less than. I'll take care of your money.
Yeah.
I'll take care of your body.
I love this scene. It's so normal and all the crazy. A scene of just friends sitting around, drinking wine, and busting some balls. Again, Moira's exactly right. She is by far the most savvy character we have. This is the government saying and enforcing that women can't take care of themselves. Men should be in charge of everything, the money, the property, even their bodies. In one day, they've gone from strong, independent women to having no rights, no voice, no money, no job, and no way out. Moira sees what's really happening, and she has some idea of what's about to come. Yet, as much as she will bust Luke's balls and suggest that he cut his dick off for her entertainment...
You want me to walk you to the station?
Fuck yeah, it's crazy out there.
She ain't stupid. Even to a lesbian, men do have some uses. We're then back with Offred in the present.
Alfred, if you do your best to answer these questions, this will all be really painless, all right?
Yes, sir.
Good, that's what we all want.
Wow, the contradiction in that statement. Here, let me painfully shock you to get your attention, and then promise that we're not here to hurt you. Do they hit these people on the head every day? Then they start asking about the previous Ovglen. What did they talk about? What did they talk about when they walked by the river? This tells you, like, how spied upon everyone is. They know they walked by the river, and yes, they could have interrogated Ovglen, but it would seem that she can't speak. She's got bruises on her throat, she's got that mask on all the time, so maybe they asked her questions, maybe not, but fact is, there are spies everywhere, so yeah, they probably know every route that every handmaid in Martha takes. Then more weird. I think this is the episode of weird. After provoking Offred to agree that Ovglen is a pretty girl, the questions then start getting perverted. They ask Offred, what part of Ovglen did you find so pretty? Her lips, her hair, her body? And did Ovglen ever try to touch you, Offred? It draws out slowly. You're not quite sure what's going on because, of course, you think it's about her being in the Resistance. But nope, that's not why they're here. Ovglen didn't disappear because she was helping the Resistance. She disappeared because she's a...
Did you know she was a gender traitor?
Gender traitor. What an inspired phrase. Just makes a girl want to vomit. Yep, it is now a high holy crime to be gay. And in fact, if someone admits being gay, even if it's from before...
Then you didn't report this to your mistress?
This is more of the spying on each other. All infractions, however minor, are to be reported and punished. This isn't just expected, it is mandatory, and you will be punished if you fail to report someone else. This is why there are no friends in Gilead. Now she's really in trouble, but she still has some fight left in her.
I knew she was gay.
I love that she says that like a teenager throwing it back in her parents' face. But this makes the dark side of Aunt Lydia come out. Darker side.
That thing was an offense to God. She was a disgusting beast.
Wow. Just wow. What do you say to that? But Offred does dare to speak, and apparently even quoting scripture will land thee a serious ass whooping. Now I really feel sick. And I feel so sorry for Ann Dowd, who I'm sure is like the nicest person, but to her credit, she pulls off a completely believable, vile, contemptible bitch. Like, really well. So, wings off to her for a very strong performance. What saves Offred is the return of Serena Joy. Watch Aunt Lydia's reaction.
She's pregnant!
And she ain't the only one. The man asking the questions is suddenly all joy and congratulations. And yeah, they have enough now. They can leave, no more beating or shocking the girl. Even Serena Joy tries to comfort Offred. My, hasn't she changed her tune? Now we're back with Ovglen, and she's wearing some kind of Hannibal Lecter-type mask, leaving her unable to speak. And she is so frightened and desperate that she tries, well, this. Until he slams her into a wall. And then we see how the law works for the first time. This is a very telling and informative scene. The mask is left on her, making it clear she will not be allowed to speak in her own defense or to speak at all. And also, she is not being charged with breaking a law, but with breaking biblical scripture.
The accused stand charged with gender treachery in violation of Romans chapter 1, verse 26, by his word.
Strap in, because I'm going to break this down. What's quoted is not even biblical law. It's just scripture. Specifically Romans chapter 1, verse 26. For anyone who doesn't know that off the top of their head, allow me. And I quote, "For this cause, God gave them up unto vile affection, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature." That's from the King James Bible because it seems the most likely version for Gilead to be using, though heavily bastardized, I'm sure. For anyone needing a translation, which included me, this is from the New International Version. "Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural sexual relations for unnatural ones." If you're going for the anti-gay Bible verse, this seems like an odd choice. There are much more fitting biblical verses. Leviticus 18:22 comes to mind. "Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind it is an abomination." But that does seem to refer specifically to men, so I could see that not applying to women in Gilead, even though I find the Old Testament to be much more likely a place for Gilead's new laws to be founded. Then I remember both stonings and an eye for an eye are also from the New Testament, and we know that they use both of those. Seems odd for a fundamentalist society, but guess that's how they roll. After looking at it, the Bible has a lot of verses about homosexuality and sexuality in general, but very, very few of the passages reference women being gay. Most only talk about men. And since gender roles are everything here, Romans 1:26 is the best they got. And believe me, they had to look hard for it. This also brings up the no reading and no technology point. How are the handmaids taught the Gilead versions of scripture? They can't read them. And I don't see any iPods with podcasts for them to listen to. Are the aunts allowed to read? Presumably this would be taught at the Red Center by the aunts, or in school by teachers who are probably also called aunts. So how are the aunts taught the scriptures? Even if some knowledge of scriptures from before is how aunts are chosen, you can bet Gilead has changed a few words here and there. And by now have probably started adding their own. This is not a world based completely on real history, so it doesn't have to be accurate to any known history or world, but it does have to explain itself. Back to the proceedings, such as they are, there is only one lawyer, and he represents the state. That is so telling. There is not even the pretense of a fair trial. There's not even the pretense of a trial. There is no defense for these women. A man has spoken. A man has charged them with a crime, and a man has said that they truly did it. Based on the word of this man, they are guilty, and men will now sentence them. The Martha is sentenced to the common mercy of the state, and the handmaid to redemption. We see very quickly just how merciful the state of Gilead is. And then we're back with Offred in the present, and Nick comes to say, "Sorry you got electrocuted and beaten there." There's a few things in this scene. 1, Nick is not supposed to be in her room. 2, she's not supposed to be alone with Nick. But he's snuck up here to check on her and bring her some ice. I will say my piece on the Nick and Offred. I'm not even going to call it a romance because it's not. On their hookup. I hate it. I think it makes very little sense, and that in the show they have not done enough to set this up or to earn it. A couple of people throwing glances that quite frankly do not convey chemistry at each other does not lead to this, not in this society, not with the oppression, and not with Nick being portrayed as a go-along, get-along guy who saw the winds changing and tried to make the best path for himself that he could. If he's out for himself, which he clearly says that he is, why would he then be risking it for her? If anything, I think a woman in her predicament would reject all male attention. But thanks for the ice, Nick. And we find out she's not pregnant. And after everyone's been so nice lately and gotten all their hopes up, and she has to go tell Serena Joy herself. Then we flash back to the protesting that happened when the women lost their money and their jobs, and we see what the response was. notice that most of the footage of the protest looks like it could have been taken off any 6 o'clock news show in the last 6 months. It's really disturbing. The whole scene is terrifying, and the music adds this wonderful element of hyper-reality to it. It's just incredible. I also like that they take refuge in the coffee shop where we had seen them before, and we see what it looks like now, that it's been abandoned. Now the long, slow walk to tell Serena Joy that there is no baby. I especially love this moment. The way she glances outside for a second as if she knows what's coming. And we see it's going to be even worse than we thought because Serena Joy has begun nesting. Fred desperately tries to tell her, but Serena Joy is in such a good mood that she feels like sharing.
Fred and I, we tried for so long. It was hard to keep faith.
She is so desperate and so elated to think that all her devotion and all her suffering, and I don't deny that she has suffered, that all of that has finally paid off. But it hasn't. And notice she doesn't get angry right away. At first she's just sad and disappointed. It's only when she's told the period started last night that she suddenly gets angry. In this world, Offred should have told her right away, as in the exact second that she knew. So, Serena Joy feels lied to. She has done all this work and made a big show of clearing out this room and starting to set up a nursery. She feels like she's been made a fool of in front of the entire household, that she's been deceived by this horrible girl. So she responds like this.
You will stay here, and you will not leave this room. Do you understand me? Do you understand me?
And then we learn what redemption means, as we're taken back to Emily, as we finally learn her name is. Something that caught my attention during the sentencing. The Martha was called
Martha, 6715301.
And Emily was called
Handmaid, 8967.
Assuming these are straightforward numbers, then there are at least 6,715,301 Marthas, and as few as 8,967 handmaids. That's a possible ratio of 750,000 non-fertile Marthas to one single fertile handmaid. And that still doesn't justify this!
You won't want what you cannot have. Blessed be the fruit, dear.
I really wonder if Aunt Lydia's secretly a dyke. Made me laugh for the entire ball-busting scene, but especially...
That's big, strong man.
Thank you. Big, strong fuck.
You go, girl. For Janine, biting Mrs. Putnam. Might not be smart, but given what the wives have to say about the handmaids, I'm on Janine's side. Nitpick, for the use of Bible verses as laws, both for being an absurd concept and for forcing me to dig through my reference shelves for Bibles and spend an hour on Bible Gateway. Ironic feminist goes to Rita and Serena Joy for their near bipolar changes in attitude toward Offred when they think she's pregnant. Dick of the episode goes to the unseen commander of Janine for filling her head with lies. The raping is bad enough, the lies are just cruel. And that is episode 3, Late, of the Hulu series The Handmaid's Tale. I am Insane Lane. Blessed be, bitches. Bye-bye.